Leave your ego at the door and get ready to be raw. This is Strength to Overcome, where real men find their strength in weakness. And today we have a great guest on the show this week. He's the PGA Director of Instruction at Waterleaf Golf and River Club and owner of GrantPriceGolf.com. We've got Mr. Grant Price on with us. Grant, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good, thanks, Ryan. How are you? Hi, Matt.
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's great to have you on, and I'm excited to learn more about your role there at Waterleaf. And first thing I want to do is hear from Matt and hear how you guys know each other and kind of the connection there first.
Yeah, Grant, good to see you here, mate. I was just saying before we hit record here how excited I get every week to be on this. It's the one thing in my life that I get pumped to do. Not that I don't love being a husband and a father, but this really gets me pumped. And Grant, just a thrill to have you on the show here. And, I know some of your story. I'm super excited for you to share it with our audience and, inspire a lot of people that have been through some really tough times. And I know some of your story, but, as you go through it in detail here again today, I'm going to be, just as shocked as the audience the first time I heard it. So thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Awesome. I think, Grant, I don't know if you want to recall the time we met, but I think I just heard about you through a buddy of mine. And, me being a very handicapped golfer, as soon as you put some clubs in my hand, I'm useless. But I think I came to you in search of improving my game through a friend. And, a friendship ensued from there because we actually live pretty close to each other.
That's correct. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And, both being colonial, it kind of took off like wildfire, didn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think the first time you and I actually met, we started talking cricket, and it, turned into some friendly fire there. No, fists were thrown there, but we've always battled back a little
and then
bit.
the rugby,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
all of it. It's been a blast. You're very much in my circle, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. I was able to, meet your mum and your brother as well during some visits there and spend some time with your family, which has been terrific. And I know you've met my family as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all just grown very well, and I love your friendship, so I appreciate appreciate you as a friend.
Yeah, it's been great, mate, and I can't wait for you to share this story. So, Ryan, you want to dig in on some golf stuff? I know you're pumped to have a golfer on here that has got some history and some, some bloodlines there too. So walk me through what you've done. You love to research our guests.
Yeah, so Matt was telling me Nick Price is your uncle. Is that right, Grant?
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
So for those listening, that's Nick Price, three-time major champion, World Golf Hall of Famer, former number one in the world, Nick Price.
Correct. That's
so. Is he your dad's brother? Is that how it?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
He was my dad's youngest brother. Yeah, my dad unfortunately passed a number of years ago, but yeah, Nick was the youngest of the three, and he's every bit as great a guy as you ever hear. I assure you.
Yeah.
He really is. He's very genuine, very personable, very real, and that's hard to say sometimes in that kind of, professional limelight, right?
Sure. So take us back to the start. Did you grow up in the States or were you overseas? Where did you get started?
So I was born in Zimbabwe, Salisbury, Rhodesia back then.
Okay.
And, when I was 2 or 3, my parents and my whole family moved to England. I didn't really like the way the country was going, and with good cause. And I grew up and was educated in England for my whole academic life, and then took off into all sorts of sports. So I played cricket to, I got national tryouts for cricket. I got national tryouts for rugby. I was in the reserves, like the cadets for the Air Force, and made corps for all of those sports. And it was a bit of a strange one. I think I played at one point. I think I played 7 county sports at the same time. So I've just been a sportsman, and of course my academics took a little bit of a punch for that, but the IQ is still way up there, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So when did the golf thing come around? When did you start playing?
My dad had always kind of had clubs in the house, and I'd always kind of messed around with them when I was younger, but I never really kind of took major interest in it until I was sort of 15. And, just through myself, I decided I was done with team sports. I was done with the politics of it. If any of us have played team sports to any kind of significant level, you know that there's a dynamic there that you're either in and part of or you're not. And as sad as it is to say, that's kind of how it works. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to go the solo sport road. And it was the one that really kind of gripped me anyway, because I was in control of it. If I made the mistake, I got punished for it, and it kind of taught me a lot of responsibility as I was going through those 15, 16, 17-year-old kind of age brackets, which, let's be honest, we can get swept up and caught off in other directions as well. But fortunately for me, it was very much channeled, and I learned a lot of self-control and a lot of discipline through golf as I was growing up. So it was probably 15 when I started really playing.
Okay. And did you learn from Nick, or was he around at the time, or was he already on tour in the States?
So Nick was already touring. He was out and about.
Yeah.
My dad obviously had reached out to him. Obviously, we spoke, very often. And my family are very, very close with David Ledbetter and have been for many, many years. And so when I started to really take it up, David signed a book and sent it over to me, and gave it to my dad. My dad gave it to me, and that became my Bible, right? Ever since the years have gone on, David and I have become close friends, and he's kind of let me into what his Bible was when he was young. So and he was coming up through it. So it's been really fun, the evolution of it. But I did a lot of self-instruction out of David's book, and I got down to, I think, a 1 handicap in Europe before I needed to seek personal assistance, which I was fortunate enough to do through David as well.
Wow, that's great. So when did you come over to the States? How did that come about?
Oh my goodness. I think the first time I came over with golf was when Nick just won the Open Championship. He came over to the house. He had the claret jug. We were all there, which was great. And I believe I flew back with him. Actually, it might have been the year before he won that, on the 93 Open, I think. And I flew over here to spend time over at Lake Nona in Orlando, and where David was based, and kind of work on my game from there, make sure I assisted to kind of earn my keep, so to speak, and just kind of work on my game the whole time. And it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, I bet. So when that led you eventually to get into the PGA of America, was that kind of the track you were on?
So no, I actually ended up going back into England and going that way. It was hard for me to stay here. Obviously, there's a lot of visa controls and stuff with regards to US. And I was still a youth at that point. So I needed to go back to England, carry on my life that side and kind of progress it from there, which is what I did. I turned pro, I think in 2000, I think, if I remember correctly. And then just kind of kept going from there, playing as much as I could. And then got the opportunity to work for David Ledbetter to kind of progress that way too. So I could be involved in the game as well as playing the game. And that really helped me with regards to further growth, and certainly opened my eyes a lot more to what it takes for a lot of these guys, on tour. I mean, they put a lot of time in behind closed doors that people don't see. They only ever see the camera side of things, but they put in a lot of time behind closed doors.
Yeah, definitely. And for those folks out there, being a playing professional is quite a bit different than a PGA of America club professional or teaching professional. So Grant, you did a little bit of the playing thing first and
Correct.
tried to
Correct.
play and
Yeah, I played for a while, and it's tough out there, man. It's really, really hard.
yeah.
Modern game, I would say, the amount of sponsorship required to keep your head up is crazy. It's really expensive now to kind of get out there and stay out there, and you really, really need support to make that happen. And if you're not shooting crazy numbers right now, if you can't get to 62 or 61, if you can only hover at that 67, 66 mark, the chances
It's
are
not.
not looking very good
No.
because someone always goes low. So yeah, it was a bit
Yeah.
crazy. And working with lead and working for lead, it took me all over the world. I started in Europe, obviously, and yeah, that's kind of how all this evolved.
So for those who don't know, David Ledbetter, probably one of the top, what would you say, Grant, top 10 teachers of all time in the
Uh,
game of golf?
Arguably number one.
Yeah, arguably number one. And so you got to work directly under him for a number of years, huh?
Yeah, I got to work alongside him for a little while, and alongside some of the very, very well known coaches, global coaches, and then worked with in an academy for him, which I then rose the ranks to take the directorship of, and the directorship of instruction for those coaches that were coming in training under the Ledbetter system, and trying to play whatever I could alongside an instructional career.
That's great. And so that kind of took you into the PGA of America realm, right? As in terms of, hey, I'm going to be a teaching professional. This is going to be what I do for my profession. I'm not playing anymore, but I'm going to teach for a living.
Yeah, so it took me through, I went through the Ledbetter certification, and I went that way because it was just more specialized at the time. The PGA is, a global corporation, a global company, and recognized all over the place. And I did that through Europe, through Ledbetter.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So what landed you at Waterleaf? How long have you been there? And tell us a little bit about the club there.
Okay, so after Europe, I had, I met my now ex-wife, and had my first child. I didn't want to. So Europe was very seasonal. You'd come in, do one season, the other season rolled in, you'd have to go somewhere else to do another season. So, for example, we could go into Austria, Germany, and so on, do the summer, and then when the winter hit, you'd be in Spain or Portugal or somewhere warm, and that's kind of how it worked. So as soon as I had my first kid, before we get to any further discussions of what happened over there, I had my first kid. I decided I wanted to be somewhere more permanent. So I spoke to David. I looked at was then IMG Academy under David Ledbetter, and that was a all year round position. There was some stability I saw for my family and for future, and that's how I came in over here. I came in under obviously work visas, and then when I applied for my green card, I came in under a very specialized section, and that's how I got in.
Gotcha. And you've been, I guess, how long have you been in Bradenton?
Probably since 2014. No, hang on a second. Oh, hang on. Probably 2000. I came over 2009, I think, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But that was very much in downtown Bradenton, and then I kind of worked a little further east, out towards the school zones, where I am now. And so I've been over here now probably, I would say 17, 18 years maybe. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah. And you've gotten to work with golfers, I'm sure, of all levels, right, at this
Oh,
point?
absolutely. Yeah, I've worked with elite amateurs and national team members, amateur champions from all sorts of different countries. Nelly Corda, world number one. I've worked with her and worked with Jessica, her sister. She won some tournaments with under my tutelage as that. So, just a lot of people and a big resume through all the years, and I've worked with a lot of players in Europe as well, and currently have a 16-year-old on the ladies European tour. So, it's always evolving. It's a very, very interesting life.
Now, Grant, just walk me through the transition from playing. Ryan obviously has got a very strong background in golf and has recently conquered the 17th at TPC. I, on the
Bravo.
other hand, came to see you because I was tired of slicing my drive 300 yards sideways, and you managed to fix that. And one day I do hope to get back to it post recovery here. But the transition from competing to coaching, as men and those that are good at sports, which I think the three of us have proven in different areas that we are very good at sports and hand-eye. Did you struggle with that transition across to coaching versus competing?
Yes, I still have that competitive edge in me. I still like to play events now whenever I get the chance. So yes, it was very difficult, and especially under the circumstances of which it happened to me. You know, I was really just starting to get into my really low scores and getting to positions of qualifying through events and getting to bigger tournaments, and that was kind of ripped away out from underneath me. And an event that was of it just I couldn't even foresee it. So it was a very painful one for me. I went through a lot of contemplation, a lot of inner thought to sit and see, you know, hey, could that have changed? Was it literally just fate that it happened? And you know, it was it was a crazy story.
Now, is that something that you can share with us here? I mean, can we dive in a little bit on that? Because
Sure,
obviously
sure.
that's it's kind of a fork in the road in your story, and I
Yeah, a
think
big
for
one,
the
a big
audience,
one.
they're always looking for inspiration or, wow, I'm in the same sort of hole, or these guys haven't been there, they haven't experienced what I'm going through, right? It's not as
Yeah.
tragic. Can you share a little bit or a lot, up to your discretion on what that was and when it happened?
Yeah, I'll share that story, absolutely. It was January 2005. I was in Portugal. I literally just got back to work. I lost my father in November 2004 to a sudden heart attack. And yeah, just struggled to get past that and get through Christmas and New Year with my mom, and then went straight back to it. And I don't know if I was emotionally ready, you know, to go back, but I did. I got up, you know, stood tall and got on with it. And then when I was there, yeah, it's a crazy story. So I actually played a qualifier not long after being back there. So I was back probably 2 3 weeks, and I just played a qualifier, shot 64, going through. Let's go, you know, elated. And then one of my friends over there had just gotten engaged, and invited me out to the engagement party, meet the family, do the whole thing that night. So obviously that was really an honor for me, and I was very happy to go. So I went, and I enjoyed the evening, celebrated with everybody, and yeah, so it was just a wonderful evening, really. A lot of laughs, a lot of family involved. Just it really felt very colonial, Matt. You know what I mean. Like, when I grew up with a household that there could be 14 people at any given day, or any weekend, or whatever. I mean, we could be sitting down for lunch with the whole neighborhood,
Right,
and
yeah.
that's kind of
The front
how.
door's open, and what started as a 4 or 5 person, get together turns into people popping in and
Yeah,
staying all afternoon and night. That's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
Aussie thing too, right?
Yeah, and that happened for us. We kept that colonialism side, and went in England. And so anyway, it felt very much like that. It was great. So when the evening ended, we'd all had a few drinks, everything was good. And I was probably only, I don't know, a mile up the road, mile and a half up the road from where we celebrated. So there I am, just walking back. They're like, "Hey, don't take a taxi. It's not that, sometimes a little unsafe. Be careful. Just walk back. It's not far." So anyway, I was walking back, and I was on the sidewalk, which was really cobblestones. It wasn't really like a sidewalk in the US, this high. It was just cobblestones. And I remember walking past a bus stop that was right there on the cobblestones, and I'm off on as far off on the sidewalk as I can get. And I just remember seeing car lights come up from behind me, and then the next thing I know, it was pow from behind. And there's a whole lot that goes into that thereafter. I had near death experience. I had some very strange things happen. But yeah, police report later on suggested I was hit somewhere between 45 and 65 miles an hour as a pedestrian.
I mean, I've got chills just covering
Yeah, they've come
my
back to me
body.
too.
I
Yeah.
know that you're sharing something that obviously is pretty hard for you to talk about, but you remember headlights, and then what do you remember next?
Well, I didn't think to worry about the headlights. I was on the sidewalk. You think cars are going to go past you on the road. You don't think they're going to come up and hit you on the sidewalk, right? So I mean, I didn't even think to turn around. I mean, dozen cars had gone past me. I didn't really think anything of it. But anyways, so there I was, pow, I got hit. And I remember, so, I'm going to use this as me, and this is the car that hit me. So I was hit on the front right corner. My head went back onto the windscreen. Now, this is where the NDE comes in. So I felt that someone put their hands under my shoulder blades and under the back of my legs and just lifted me. So the car just kept going underneath and then lowered me back down. So if this was me as a person, they kind of picked me up, swept me, moved me, lowered me down, and then about 3 feet from the ground, I turned face down and poof, back into reality. Now, on the police report and how they eventually managed to catch the guy, I apparently ragdolled down the whole side of the car and the top of the car. But that's not what happened to me. It's absolutely not what happened to me. And I remember as soon as my head went back and hit the windscreen, I remember seeing the tunnel, the light, and it's not what people think it is at first. It's like this very, very tight circle, very tight, and a tight event horizon. And then it just gets closer and bigger, and the light starts to expand off the horizon. I've never felt as safe, secure, and warm as I ever have in that feeling. And then all of a sudden, it's like, just as I was coming into reality, boom, just went, and I was back in my body and in my life. And it was a very strange experience. And it was actually much stranger about a year later when I was back in the UK and I saw my local vicar at the local church, and he had just lost his son, and he literally finished my story for me. And I'm like, there is no possible way you could have ever known I was going to say that. So it was really peculiar. But so that's what happened. And then when I landed face down, I remember rolling onto my back and I couldn't breathe. And I remember looking up, and I've never seen the stars in the sky like I did that night. I saw purples and pinks and yellows and like the cosmos that you just cannot see with your eyes. And it was the most breathtaking thing I've ever seen in my life. And then all of a sudden the first breath comes in, and then the pain, and then it was shocking. But that unfortunately was not the end of it.
So in that moment where you've got this very small tunnel and a horizon there, is this somewhere between being struck and then being face down? Is time standing still? Is this a slow process, or was that a very quick moment?
I had no concept of time, but it really didn't feel fast. It felt very slow. Felt as though, it was a very slow process. It's hard to even articulate, even after all these years. It was just a slow, gradual increase of size of the quote central light, which truly was magnificent. And the event horizons from the side of it just kept getting wider and wider. And then all of a sudden it disappeared back when I came back to reality. It was a bit of a mind-blowing experience, to be honest. And especially with the fact that I felt the hands underneath me, the arms underneath me. Like I felt them as physically as I would if I picked you up right now. I felt them literally sweep me. And
imagine if you're getting hit at 50 miles an hour and there's not something like what you're describing, then you just get turned into dust. At that pace, you just get destroyed, don't you?
Yeah, I spoke to the doctors in the hospital later, and they said my survival percentage just for impact was minuscule.
So you wake up, or not wake up, but you come to, you're staring at the colors, and there's got to be some injuries here, right? Walk me through.
My body was in so much pain at that point. As soon as I took that first breath, the pain really hit, and unfortunately, the pain didn't stop at that point. I remember turning my head to the side and seeing the car reversing backwards, and he reversed on top of me twice. And I mean on top. I don't mean rolling over my chest. The tire was probably 6 inches off the base of my neck. so it didn't crush my windpipe, but it was right in my chest. And to this day, I still reset my ribs probably a dozen times a day. Let's see. Yeah, there we go, right there. So the tire rolled up my left arm and onto my chest like this, and it rolled over my lower left ankle, pushing, kind of forcing my foot down. And I can remember using this hand to just push off and push off. And I remember the springs going up, like that whole, you know, mom lifting a car thing off their kid. Trust me, yeah, totally get it, 100% get it.
Wow.
Happens to us too. It's not just a mom thing. So I remember literally pushing the springs off. But the problem is, as I lifted the one side, it put more pressure on the other. So he rolled off me first, and I was screaming to stop, please stop. And he just rolled off. And then I thought he was done, and he didn't. He rolled back up on top of me again for a second time. And I actually, because I'd moved my left leg a little bit, I actually felt like my ankle was disjointing and was going to snap. So I bent my knee, and I got a massive burn on my thigh from the exhaust underneath, but it saved me from snapping my ankle and my tendons and stuff. So it was kind of, the lesser of two evils, really.
So this was like a malicious attack, huh?
Well, yeah, I had to give testimony in court in a hospital bed.
Wow.
And the story of how he got caught is even crazier. Like, you can't make this up. I promise you. So anyway, on the police report, there's, the incident where I got hit. And then there's 1, 2, 3 pools of blood. And then the house that I managed to pull myself to, which was over 50 meters away. And I couldn't really feel anything under my chest and waist. So it just felt like an eternity to try to get there. But I remember when he'd gone, I passed out, came to, one of my contact lenses was missing. It was just a mess. But I remember seeing a car stick at an angle like 45 degrees between this wall. And I'm like, well, there's got to be a house there. Like, there has to be a house there. Otherwise he's driven off a cliff. Right. And it was just too perfectly angled for it to be a cliff. So I was like, well, I got to get to that house. I got to get to that house. So I kept, pulling myself with my forearms, and I, in this arm here, I have a really big scar. Hang on, right in there. Big stone was lodged as I was trying to basically army crawl with my shoulders and my chest just to try to move. And like I said before, there's these blood pools on the police report. I got there, passed out, got to the next one, passed out, got to the next one, passed out. And then I managed to pull myself down to this house. And I swear to God, you can't make this up. I started banging on the door, and I'm really struggling to cling on right at this point. And I really mean struggling. I was banging on the door. I was asking for help in 4 languages, and I passed out. And then I came to. I got kind of slapped on the cheeks and came round. And there was this, voice above me. I was like, please, I need water. I need water. Obviously, I didn't know how much I'd bled out at that point. But this voice says, no, I can't. I'll give you water. They might need to operate. I can't give you water. And I kept begging and pleading her. And she kept saying no. While the emergency services were on site, they were cutting all my clothes off, trying to get the clothes off the burn, blood all over the place. It was something that I won't forget. But it turns out that house belonged to the lead trauma surgeon of the local hospital. And she was a South African girl.
Wow.
Since that date, I've been a huge fatalist. I have very strong faith. And I mean, you literally can't write that script. You literally can't write that script. So anyway, let me go back, divulge a little bit, or digress a little bit, sorry, and divulge some more information. So when I went to this party, the girl that I knew had just become engaged to the deputy chief of police. And they lived opposite each other on the same street. And they came out and they got to know each other. And then all of a sudden, it took off as a relationship. And she moved in with him, rented her house out. Right? So anyway, I had two phones. I had an international phone that was unlocked and I could buy SIM cards for whatever country I was traveling to, because that's kind of how we did it back then. And then I had my English phone, which was also unlocked. So in the event of emergencies, I could still use it, but I tried to use the local ones because obviously it was much more cost effective. So the international one was one of those flip PDAs with the pens. You know, we used to get the little case for, and you know, anyway, showing my age a bit here, but
We had them.
anyway, at the scene of the accident, they found that flip phone, but it didn't have a case and it didn't have a pen. It was just a flip phone, and it was in my jacket pocket when I got hit. I remember to this day. So anyway, I'm in hospital. Everything's going on. I'll tell you a little bit more about the injuries in a minute. But so anyway, she comes out the next morning and she looks across the street and she sees this car all bloodied up, smashed windscreen, blood all over the place. And she phones her fiance and says, "Hey, are you looking for this vehicle?" And he says, "Yes." And she said, "Well, you're not going to believe it. It's in my old house." And they went over there and sure enough, that was the vehicle. In the back footwell, in the back rear right footwell, it's a passenger footwell over there. In the back seat was the case with the pen still in it. Must have got sucked in through the window.
Wow.
And of course, they matched all the blood as well off the vehicle. So, I mean, it was obviously destined to happen, but for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But I've learned a lot from it, and it's definitely held me in good stead when I've been dealing with other challenges in my life, and there definitely have been those. But I mean, you literally can't make it up.
So
So that was the couple that had just gotten engaged? Was that
Yeah,
their
that was
party?
the party I was at that
Yeah.
night.
Wow.
And he got called out, of course, for my incident. And he wasn't aware that it was specifically me because I'd already been taken to hospital at that point. And then when he found out that it was me, later that morning, they all joined the dots. And yep, that's how it happened.
So let's just backpedal for a second, because you're not even alive unless you knock on that particular door.
Correct. And it turns out I had so few pints of blood left that it was basically just maintaining major organs at that point. I was
So,
lucky I didn't lose anything.
so you're knocking on this door, probably limbs hanging out left, right, and center, bones smashed
Bloody
to
to
pieces,
bits, yeah.
and they've probably opened the door, and the only person that could have saved your life happens to live there.
Correct.
So, I got chills again. I've had chills for the last
Yeah,
30
I've
minutes,
been in
right?
goosebumps the whole time,
You
yeah.
can't deny a higher power placing, these things. And someone might say, well, if there was a higher power, you would never have been hit. It's like, okay, well,
Well, I can argue that one too, because from what I've learned from that incident, it's carried me through some pretty other traumatic stuff. So,
yes. And
yes.
that's what I would have followed through with saying, because Ryan and I have been doing this podcast to share that, we've been through some really tough times lately and we're still going through some stuff. And, we have someone like you on the show that just comes along and proves the point that, listen, stuff's gonna happen, right? Whatever faith you have, whoever it is that's operating this system that we live in, is not going to stop every bad thing from happening in your life, because more often than not, that's when we learn the most. And so it's almost like, hey, listen, I know you're about to get hit, but let me carry you through the impact.
Yeah.
And after that, let me give you the strength to keep getting up 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And let me help you pick the right door with the light on, or whatever it was that your subconscious made you do. There's no denying that, you should be dead. You probably did die. And now here we are getting to hear this incredible story. And so if you wouldn't mind, give us the list of things that you were injured with, because then I want to get to the point of, well, now I met you, a handful of years ago, and you're playing. So walk me through that, because I want to know how bad it was and what you had to go through to bounce back to being able to play again.
And this is where I've got goosebumps crazy right now. This is where I was unarguably protected. I did not suffer any of the major three. Did not break my neck, did not break my back, did not break my pelvis from an impact like that. Okay, so yes, I have no doubt whatsoever I was protected in whatever means and whatever capacity and by whomever. And I definitely have faith. So there's no doubt in my mind, what happened. But I ended up with broken left leg and 38 ruptured muscles.
Is that just because you were backed over several times?
No idea. And you want to know what's even crazier is I didn't even suffer any rib fractures. So, I mean, the car was sitting on top of my chest for what felt like an eternity both times. I mean, it really felt like a long time. And if I wasn't as strong as I was or as healthy as I was, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't survive it, because I think my chest would have collapsed and lungs gone. So there was some other stuff in play there that is very hard to understand, but
So were you rushed from that house to a hospital, a
yeah.
clinic?
So
Like, what happened?
yeah, so I was taken by ambulance to the local public hospital. Fortunately, I had international travel insurance, and very good travel insurance. And so the owners of the academy in Portugal and the director there, found out and came down, signed me out of the public one, and I signed myself out. Obviously, I had to sign the paperwork to get out of there, and he got me into a private hospital, and that's where they took me from there. Which I remember waking up in the public hospital, and obviously they're just doing their jobs, and they did the best they could. I remember I was on a steel tray with a pillow, and that was it. And I remember being brought out of the ambulance. I kind of clicked into consciousness just for a second, and then I was out again. And then as they were trying to take me off of the stretcher onto somewhere to x-ray and scan me and everything else, I remember waking up just sitting up bolt right in so much pain, because they literally lifted my leg that was broken, and I literally sat up bolt right, screamed, and passed out again. And I remember that vividly. It still staggers me to this day that I didn't have worse injuries. I still pray and thank God every day that I'm still here. And I was laying in that I was laying on that tray for probably 8 or 10 hours before people knew who I was and where I was from, and could track me down and get me to the other hospital, and they got me to the other hospital, and they did their own sets of tests and procedures. It's very difficult being in a country in a language you don't speak, I mean, I was in a hospital bed in Portugal for 6 months,
Oh,
and before I was medically fit to fly and get medvaced back, and underwent 3 or 4 surgeries, I think, before I was fit to fly and get medvaced out back to the UK. And the amount of David, just for the record, David Ledbetter called me literally almost every day I was in there, and my uncle also. They made it an effort. But I remember talking to the doctor at the private hospital, and I said, listen, no one can call my mum. And I kept saying, no one can call my mum, no one can call my mum, because she just lost her husband, right? We just lost dad. And I even told them in the public hospital, I'm like, no one can call my family, no one can call the UK, no one can call anyone. I have to do it. I have to be the one whose voice is heard. And I remember the phoning and telling my mum, and just hearing her cry, and and her being so thankful that I was the one talking to her. And she nearly lost half of her family in 2 months.
yeah, I'm sitting here tearing up almost because I'm picturing that moment, as a parent, and I know you are, and Ryan, now you are too, right? You're trying to put yourself into that situation where you get this call and says, somebody that you've never heard before says, "Hey, there's been an accident," right?
Yeah,
And they're the
yeah,
sort of words as a parent that you're trying to protect your mum from hearing. I'm sitting here, and I didn't even go through this, but I'm sitting here almost losing my composure because you were trying to protect her from hearing that second phone call in a matter of weeks.
yeah. I remember getting the phone call from my brother when my dad died, and I'll never forget that moment. And it was one of those moments. It was like, I had to turn and tell her, I was like, Mom, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm alive. Don't worry. Um, this is where I'm at. This is the hospital. This is the, and within a week, one of my one of my friends from the UK flew over, and one of my best friends just came and helped empty out my apartment and everything that I had over there, and just get all the stuff back to the UK. I mean, you forget about all that stuff when it's all going on. You forget it's even there, right? So anyway, yeah, there you go. And yeah, it was a powerful one. And then doesn't stop there. So anyway, the guy they actually arrested, who lived in her house or was renting it, So they arrested him. He ends up turning up at the hospital to my room like 2 or 3 days later. And it was a guy I'd been drinking with at the party.
Really?
We'd been sharing drinks and stories and laughing away, and yeah, there you go.
In the world.
So he knew he came to the hospital to see you?
Yeah, he came to, I think the police have obviously told him, hey, you didn't, he isn't dead. He's still in the hospital. He's in the hospital, and he just turns up out of the blue, and I'm just like, I'm staggered. I'm like, what are you doing here? And then the officer that was with him, said, this is the man that hit you. And I didn't know how to process it.
I mean, it almost feels like you're still processing it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to stop processing that one.
I mean, I'm listening to the story, and I'll never process that. And there's a definite hesitation within you that says you're still figuring out. I mean, this is something that you see in a TV show or a movie, and you sit there and go, man, this is gripping stuff. This is a season finale type, Grey's Anatomy, hospitals and sirens, and
Yeah.
one of these stars is gonna die this episode.
Yeah.
And you're like, which one is it, right? They've got you on the edge of your seat, glued, after the commercial break. Like, who? And then, of course, the cliffhanger, and then you got to wait 6 months to see episode 1 of the next season. I mean, I feel like I'm in that sort of mode here, but it's real.
Really, absolutely, 100% real. And then, the story of trying to recover and heal and rehabilitate and everything from that is just, that's almost another story in its own right, frankly.
And I know you, and I've seen the stitches.
Yeah.
Not the stitches,
scars,
but the scars and where the stitches were. I've met you. You've shown me these things. This is not something we're making up, folks. And I've seen you show me the extensive, wounds and injuries and scars and such. And to hear it again. And, I know you shared this, but it's been a few years, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while since I spoke about it. I don't think my kids even really know about it, to this extent anyway.
And so I know that I've played golf with you. I've played golf against you. I've seen you swing. I've seen you drive in par fours. And so, to keep this from being a 3-hour podcast, how in the world did you, get back and bounce back? I mean, the devastation. I mean, is this the fork that sort of caused you to not compete or be able to compete and choose the coaching side? Is this?
I mean, pretty much it was a destiny fork in the road. I don't think it was anything I had to do with it. It was, just the sheer way in which it lines up. And then, I missed it took me so long to learn how to walk again. I was 6 months in a hospital bed, 6 months in a wheelchair, and a year and a half learning how to walk again.
Oh.
And after my leg had healed in the hospital bed, I had the broken leg. Well, they didn't cast it or anything because I couldn't move. I was in the same position for 2 weeks straight, and I was bedridden for 6 months. So after the bone had healed, they tried to stand me up, and my right leg, I've never, even being hit by the car, I don't think I felt the pain that I felt in my right leg. I had a gastrocnemial tear of 3.5 centimeters, 9 weeks after the accident. So it took nearly a year for that to repair.
Yeah, for those in Imperial, that's 1.5 inches. Like, that's 3.5 centimeters. We're talking 1.5 inches here.
Yeah, if not bigger. Yeah,
I think right.
they couldn't put it down. It was somewhere between 3.5 and 5, is what they said.
Yeah, we're talking a couple inches there, which is just, here I am with a torn bicep, feeling sorry for myself, and to hear your story, it's like, my father-in-law is always asking, when can you play golf again? I'm like, I can barely pick my own nose with this arm, right? I mean,
Yeah,
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 what are you talking about? Play golf again? Like I
yeah.
could barely
Not for
get
a
this
while.
this shoulder and arm to work, and
Yeah.
now I'm like, all right, so I can get out there and shoot in the 60s, which I've never done, but I've got the potential to do what you've done. I mean, fast forward a little bit, because obviously at some point in that 2-year span, you somehow got back out and picked up a club again.
So I actually went back to work on walking sticks. I went back to
Mm.
instruct for David Ledbetter on walking sticks. I had 2 walking sticks. I couldn't walk properly still, but I had to get back to work. So, I wasn't determined to just, be told you're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and just fought through it basically. Those of us who have had any kind of substantial trauma, there's a certain stubbornness that comes with it. And none of my girlfriends, wives, anything have ever, I've only had one wife, just for the record, but none of my girlfriends or my ex-wife ever really understood what it takes sometimes to just get stuff done. And even to this day, I'm constantly being told, well, just talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. I can't talk about it. It's not how it works. When I stand to face the fire and literally walk through it. I'm not going to stand and cower. I'm not going to hide behind a shield. I'm going to stand up and I am going to push forward. And it doesn't matter if it's a yard or a foot or an inch or a millimeter. It doesn't matter as long as forward is forward. And I have to be able to stand there with my head up, my chest back, and push regardless of pain, regardless of discomfort. And that's just kind of who I am. I've never been a quitter. Let's put it that way. But let me tell you something. All those times you see in the movies and in those shows that you're talking about, and they say, stay with me, stay with me. Well, I failed that. It's much, much, much harder than people understand. I just couldn't. I had nothing left in the tank, and it wasn't because I was quitting. It was I'm only alive because of the fact that I never quit, and I never stopped pushing forward and crawling, and I was not prepared to die on that road that day, and I'm just not prepared to quit in life, and it's been very testing since as well. You have to stand up, and you have to stand with courage, and you have to stand with resilience, and just never quit. There's just there's no, you can't quit. So bad things happen. I mean, thank God for my family at the time. What if I didn't have one? Right? Look at the flip side of the coin. What if I didn't even make it through? Would I have
Yeah.
worked with these world number ones? Would I have worked with these top 20 players in the world? Would I have worked with the people I was supposed to work with? And what's not to say that they were supposed to work with me too? Yeah. Just
Can you share a little bit, as we could be here for days. This is an
yeah.
amazing story, but can you share with me how those calls daily from your Uncle Nick, Ledbetter, can you share with me a little bit? Can you sort of walk me through some of the stuff that they would do to help you through
So,
that?
just hearing a friendly voice is really important. I call on any of you going through any kind of tough times, pick up the phone and talk to your friends. Just talk to them. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how. Just talking helps keep that humanitarian and that human connection, that soulfulness that there's something in the world. Because it's really easy to give up sometimes and feel really sorry for yourself and like you're down and out and nothing's ever going to happen. And, it's not the case. It's not the case. You've always got someone to live for. You've always got someone to talk to. And them calling me internationally, think about that, internationally every single day. I mean, God knows what it cost. I mean, I could be on the phone with them for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour sometimes, I mean, God knows what it cost. But that wasn't even factored in. It was never even factored in. It was just done. And, I would try to contact and communicate with my family whenever I could. But the voice, yeah, I mean, That was some of the only English I ever heard. The doctor spoke English. That was it. I learned more Russian from the nurse than I did Portuguese, and, you just sit there and think about it. I couldn't even watch TV, the hospital TV, Portuguese, couldn't understand a thing.
Have
It was,
you shared, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, I don't know, but for the audience, have you gone back to those guys now and in hindsight or even at the time, have you shared with them how important that time was that they spent? Did that keep you alive? I mean, did they carry you through that time? And
it helped carry me for sure. It helped carry me. My friends that were in Portugal would come visit too. And, obviously they had their lives and their jobs to do and everything else. But yes, it definitely helped. It
have
helps.
you gone to them and shared with them now or in the past? I mean, this is a while ago now, obviously, but have you
Yes, I
gone
have.
and thanked them? Because I know
I have.
I've been through things in my life where at the time you are so caught up in what you're going through that you almost, there's this, biblical story there about making sure that you go back and give
Yeah.
thanks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really. And I mean, I teared up both times. I teared up with both of them. I teared up with both of them when I spoke to them about it. It took me a number of years to really do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of processing. There's been a lot of PTSD from it. There's been, knock-on effects that you have to get past. You have to get past. Otherwise, you just can't survive as a human being. And like I said, I'm just not a quitter. I won't let that win. I will get past all of them, and I have gotten past virtually all of them.
Can I ask a tough question here? The gentleman that you were having drinks with that night ended up being the one that ran into you. Have you seen him or spoken with him since?
Last time I saw him was when they had to literally bring the entire court to the hospital. We had to close off an entire floor, and the judge was positioned accordingly, as you would expect in a courtroom, and medical professionals and jurors and everyone were in place. And last time I saw him was when I was literally testifying in court
Have you been able
from the hospital
to,
bed.
is that something you feel like is a forgiveness thing? Do you feel like you've held on to that? Is that still part of the story yet to unfold here?
Not really. I've let go of that. I let go of that a long time ago. Um, when he was with the police officer, and the police officer said, listen, he's going to be facing, charges and crimes for this. And I said, well, that's between him and God. He has to answer the questions for what he did. And this was attempted murder at this point, accidental. It could have just been an accident, but why didn't he call for help? Why didn't he call and try to do something instead of reversing on me twice?
Sure. Yeah, it had to be kind of some intention there, right? With his, I mean,
Well,
did you ever find out if he knew it was you?
I did not find out if he intentionally knew it was me, or if it was just someone that he wasn't paying attention, or if he was drunk. He had two previous
Yeah.
drink drive convictions. His story changed so much to the police. At one minute he thought he hit a trash can, and then all of a sudden there was blood, so thought he hit a deer. And when they got him, he was like 10 times over the legal limit. And he just said to them, well, when I got home after killing this poor animal, I necked a bottle of whiskey. And of course, how did the police prove otherwise? So it was kind of one of those situations where when they got him the next day, he was still way, way over the legal limit. And, I think he went home to neck that bottle of whiskey to try to ease his own conscience on the fact that he just murdered someone in his mind. I don't think he
Hmm.
expected me to survive that.
To
What did he get? Do you know what he ended up facing in terms of the sentence?
Actually, I do not.
Yeah.
I do not. I know the incident report and the police reports, etc., were provided, but they were all in Portuguese. I never really followed up with it. I was just trying to let go.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of the hardest things that you face, right? It's learning how to let them go, and learning how to handle them, and not just burden yourself for the rest of your life, and just carry bigger and bigger rocks on your shoulders for, until they squash you, basically. I figured out a long time ago that you carry it. And especially as a man, and that's what I think a lot of people don't really give us enough respect or appreciation for, is that we carry a lot of the weights of the world on us. And there's a lot of people that don't factor in a lot of the things that we do. And, you know, we're always, most of us anyway, always forward thinkers, right? We're always critical thinkers. We're forward thinkers. We're trying to plan, prepare, you know, whether it's to, you know, leave something for the family, make sure you keep paying the bills, do, you know, stay sober, whatever it is, you're trying to move forward, you know, and you're trying to carry that weight. And, you know, my family helped me share that weight. They helped share that burden when I was in the wheelchairs and, you know, I mean, that's not a fun experience either. Wheelchair going out to the supermarket, you know, to the store. I mean, you get handbags in the face, you get people walking into it. Is truly, if you ever see someone in a wheelchair, for God's sake, give them space, right? And that's what I'll say. But my family really, really helped me carry the weights, were there for me to help with my recovery and kind of taught me to just let the boulders just kind of fall off the shoulder one by one, you know, so that I was in a position I could keep moving forward. And I mean, that's not something you ever forget. It's not something you will ever undo, but you just keep moving forward, right? I was always taught to just chin up, head back, shoulders proud, chest out, and keep going. And sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, I think you've shared so much there. I'm kind of, I've got another dozen questions. You know, we talked about the length of these podcasts to keep the viewers engaged, and I think there's going to be some people out there that are going to look at the time on this one and go, "Oh wow, I can't believe that you know, this is an hour." It feels like, you know, we're just getting started because that.
And it does, not to be funny, it does kind of feel like
I
that.
mean,
I
this
mean,
is the
I could
fast.
go on for another 2 hours on experiences, feelings, recoveries. I could go on for hours,
Can
hours.
you sign off with, you know, because again, I could go down more rabbit holes here, and I don't want to, but because I want as many people as humanly possible. I'd love to see this episode go viral for people that, you know, need that encouragement. Can you give the guys out, and we've got a lot of female listeners too, but can you give us something to walk away with here on, you know, the importance of, you know, not trying to take it all on your own? I know Ryan and I have shared some of the stuff, and he's battled some stuff, and I've battled some stuff, and I've even done it in the last week. Every episode we do, I feel like, man, I didn't reach out to enough people. I didn't check in on enough people, and maybe they're suffering, and it's not just me, right? Can you sign us out with something that you know helped you? Because I know you and I have struggled with isolating ourselves through tough times recently. What do you say to guys out there that, and women, that, you know, they ignore the friends, they don't go out, they don't reach out, or they don't want to be reached out to? What have you got for that, for those that really truly could end up, you know, they hurt themselves or they fall into the wrong things, right? What have you
Yeah.
got for that to help? Because obviously you went through hell and back, and I'd love to maybe, you know, again, we've talked about this with other guests, right? Have you back on the show to learn more about it. But for now, can you just say what kept you going the most, and leave us with something there?
Yeah, there's a lot that kept me going. You know, my family kept me going. I didn't want to be another statistic. I didn't want to leave my family like, you know, like we lost my dad. I didn't want to leave them. I wanted to make sure I stayed there. I made sure that, you know, the problem is when you get into situations like that, it's kind of Groundhog Day, right? And you don't realize it's Groundhog Day. And before you blink, days have gone, and a week's gone, and a month's gone, and before you realize you're a hermit, you know. And I think one of the biggest things was to, even when I wasn't physically capable, was to try to be mentally engaged, you know, keep myself active mentally and keep myself on the edge of learning to keep pushing through and see that there's more to the world than just what you're dealing with right now. And talking to as many people about anything. You got an interest, you know, talk to them about it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be stamp collecting or jigsaw puzzles or aliens or whatever. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a case of engaging. You know, humans, we are not meant to be solitary creatures. You know, we're just not. It's like, you know, dogs. You know, that they're pack animals. When you have a dog in your house, you know, your dog comes up and crawls next to you and sleeps in your legs and wants your attention, wants to play. And it's no different to any of your friends or your kids. Everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to be engaged with, right? Every living creature on the planet wants engagement. And when you start depriving yourself of that engagement, depriving yourself of the phone calls, depriving yourself of anything, it's just not good. I mean, I was literally cut and torn from here all the way up the side of my face, and had cuts, and I've got scars all over the place that are still very evident today. And I was I was in a mess. I was a complete mess. And I gained so much weight from it, and I'm still struggling to manage it ever since. It's not something you're meant to deal with alone. It doesn't matter how stubborn and strong-willed you are to stand up, keep your chin up, your shoulders up. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You need to talk to people. You have to have contact. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your family. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter. There is support and there is love out there. And if you cut yourself off from it, it's probably the worst thing you could ever do.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because, Ryan, what was last week's episode all about?
Reaching out to someone. It's good timing.
Yeah, we were struggling with some stuff, and we both just sat down and did a short episode and said, just reach out. And here you are validating that was our shortest episode, I think. And we were both just looking for some, community, and you've done that and reminded us that without that, I mean, death is knocking and wants to take us, or addiction wants to take us. Thanks.
Even addiction, there isn't someone you can't talk to about it. There isn't a way you can't break it. You can. There's strengths of will within a human body that I've experienced that I didn't know was there. And let me tell you something. It's a lot stronger than you think it is. And it's capable of doing wondrous things. You just have to keep stepping forward. And you can't just stay in the rut. You just can't. You have to step forward. If that forward is a phone call for help, if that forward is a talk to your best friend about something you're having a problem with, if that step forward is to a doctor or a medical professional to try to attack something that you have been worried about, it's the step that starts everything.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I love it.
Man, tell us as we sign out here. Tell us the website that you've got, where people can find you. I know, Ryan, you want to wrap that up for us there?
Sure. So I'm a professional golfer, and I have a website with instruction behind it, login portal with instructional videos and everything to kind of help people with their games. And that's grantpricegolf.com. So www.grantpricegolf.com. And, that's where you can find me and see how I've kind of rebuilt a little bit.
Awesome. I love it.
Always rebuilding, always working, right? Always striving.
Yep. Good stuff, Grant. Well, it was great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on. And you guys definitely check out his website, like you said, grantpricegolf.com. And we'll definitely be looking forward to having you back on the show in the future.
Ryan, thanks very much for having me. Ozzy, always a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, mate, as usual. Thank you. Ryan, take us home.
Cheers, guys.
All right, guys. See you next week.